Wow, Ethan, great moves. Keep it up. Proud of you.
Don't go anywhere, my Dromais, because we're back with a third unique Dromai deck tech on the Mansent YouTube channel, which at this point might as well rebrand. I think Levi is a thing of the past, honestly. Guys like Jeremy keep making me want to play the Dragon Queen, and I can't help it because these decks are so freaking cool. And today's is no exception. It's actually a red hot Dromai deck, like almost a completely all red Dromai list that took the Philadelphia Battle Hardened by storm, caught some amazing games on stream, piloted by the one and only Jeremy Langland. So, Jeremy, who are you? Why do people need to care about this deck? Give us the rundown.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Just started playing Flesh and Blood at some point this year, earlier this year, aided by local Brian Gottlieb, who really helped get our scene going, which is great. This deck is so much fun, probably the most fun I've played in any TCG. I'm a Magic player for a long time, but have recently just cut out completely because Flesh and Blood is so good.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people can agree with that.
Wow, that's actually, I didn't know you were local to Brian because Brian had a lot to say on stream about how excited he was that you were doing so well with the deck. I thought that was completely observational, but apparently he's someone you know, someone you've played with. That's really cool.
Yeah, he's helped at getting our local scene going, which is great because we just didn't have much. So it's good to have him in.
Yeah, so
But
where
yeah,
are you guys? Where are you based out of then?
we're based out of the Albany, New York region, so upstate to some people, maybe not to you, but
No, I'm more upstate than that, but that's cool. Fellow Yankee. Very cool.
yeah, capital region, and we have a couple stores here that do Flesh and Blood, but still working on getting the scene, getting people into it. So we have to travel quite a bit for our ProQuest, but I'm sure that's not unfamiliar to many people.
Mm-hmm. Well, for sure. When you've got a deck this cool, it's worth traveling around for ProQuest because you got to show it off. You got to show people the spice, and that's what we're going to jump to right now. All right, so on screen, we have the Red Hot Dromai. I don't know, that's what I've been calling it because it's so darn impressive to see Red Hot come in for like 11, but I don't know, do you call this something else in your play group? What would you deem it?
No, this is Red Hot Dromai to us. And before we get anywhere, I have to start with giving a massive amount of credit to Mark Morrison. I know
Mhm.
that Brian mentioned him on stream. He's really the guy that came to me with this deck. With it, I would say it's pretty close to what it is now, but we kind of solidified those assumptions on where it is. But he came up with the deck, brought it to me, and we tuned it and came up with plans together.
Hmm. Oh, very cool. So a lot of great minds definitely behind this kind of deck here. So how about you take us through the breakdown? I'm seeing already a very light equipment loadout, not many sideboard options.
Yeah, no choices. My favorite thing in every matchup is to be like, Briar, okay, look at my deck box, take out the same four equipment every single time. There's no choices, which is I mean it's kinda nice. I wish we had a better arm piece, but Silken Farm will do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so truly it is just always this head, always this chest, always this arms, always the snaps as a leg piece. Why specifically snaps here?
So you can already see in the screen we have Dust Up, and alongside that we have Snatch, we have Blaze Headlong, and Enlightened Strike. So really there's not really any other leg piece we'd want. There's only I think three illusionist attack actions that could pop, and because of that, there's not really any reason to run Phantasmal Footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
We also just don't really have a plethora of resources. As you can see, it's all reds pretty much.
Yeah, almost.
So the opponent breaking the chain and using Phantasmal Footsteps again is not really a consideration.
Right, because it's only the Dunebreaker, right? That's all I'm seeing here that can actually get popped as far as
Yeah,
attacks
so
go.
there's not really any way for us to get the it's an action point, right? I don't even
Mm-hmm.
play Phantasmal Footsteps, so I don't know exactly.
Yeah, it's too rich for my blood anyway. Don't worry. I couldn't play it even though I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to.
great. I don't have to get it for this deck. Snapdragon Scalers will do fine.
Perfect.
But
So that kind of
yeah.
leads to the general game plan, right? This is, would you call this like the most aggressive Dromai can be built?
Yeah, for sure. And don't let the reds deceive you. This deck can go long. It can go
Mm-hmm.
very long. Some of our matchups are actually fatigue based, but yeah, this is definitely the most aggressive version. The only dragons in it that cost more than one are one Uvia and three Themis. Everything else is the cheap dragons.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, that's actually that's good to know. You're just not running any of the legendary dragons, and also cutting out some of the big boys like Necria and Vincerikai. Interesting. So your Dragon Core then, you're keeping this as kind of the primary game plan is building a board state, or are you just trying to dump hands and race?
It's kind of a mixture of both. It's nice to be able to race, and your dragons are kind of just more attack actions in a way. Attack
Mm-hmm.
actions that stay around and will soak up damage as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of there's a lot of finesse with the game plan, obviously, with stuff like Mirror Guy causing Phantasm to go away, which is obviously huge. That card
Mm-hmm.
is great. But yeah, it's for the most part, I'd say you're being aggressive. A lot of your matchups you can be aggressive. And a lot of them you need to be aggressive because again, with only having reds, you don't have game against decks like Viscerai. You can't play a long game
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not in you. You don't have the resources to AB. So definitely an aggressive portion. And before we get too much farther, Flamescale Furnace, best card in the deck by far.
Right.
The only reason this red line deck can exist, honestly, because being able to play, for example, I guess a dust up, but being able to play zero drops and then pitch to your flame scale furnace to be able to make dragons is really, really helpful and is something I do a lot.
Right. So you're trying to, fulfill the red requirement from a 0, and then even with no ash on the board, you can then follow up, pitch red, make the ash through flame scale into the dragon because you get the resource right back. It's
Right.
pretty unique because I think most of the time you're seeing flame scale enable the 2 cost attacks for the most part. Like you pitch the 1 red in, then you pitch another red flame scale, float 2. So you definitely have those lines available, right? Because you have CNC. But that is pretty smart actually. Lead with the 0, go about it that way. Because I definitely noticed on your stream games, which we picked up, I believe, 2 of at the Battle Hardened Philadelphia that I streamed recently. You played without Ash a lot with this deck. It was very surprising. For as
Yeah,
aggressive as I pegged the deck to be, you really didn't slow down. It was just throw hands, and then yeah, smart use of flame scale for the Ash for sure.
yeah, it can be scary sometimes with those low ash. As we saw in my top eight match, I was without ash and that cost me the game. So
Mm.
you got to be a little careful, but I don't think that's something. I think that's something that all Dromai decks most likely have. Although I have not played the more traditional Dromai deck that much. I think that's something you always have to keep in mind is your ash count,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you're able to set up on the next turn. You don't want to draw all dragons and not be able to go. But luckily, as you said, this deck has a lot of attack actions. So usually you can do something, even if you have to break your snapdragons. But having Rabbit and Scrabble in your deck helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to start off the turn so that you can make ashes obviously very important. Same with Sigil. You can play a Sigil and pitch to Flamescale Furnace to make an ash if you're desperate. Um, Lots of situations where Flamescale Furnace really does it, and I mean it enables Red Hot too. So
Right, yeah. So Red Hot, that's where the namesake of this deck comes from. How important is the Red Hot game plan to how you actually close games?
I wish it was more important, but I'd say 85% of the time the modes on that card is block three, move on. But when you can do it, it's great. As you saw on stream, I was able to do 11 damage with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fun card. Sometimes you can get. I haven't had this come up in a real match, but you can go turn one, rake, pitch to the Flamescale Furnace in response,
Mm-hmm.
make 2 floating, make 3 ash rings off of that, attack with 3 ash rings, and then red hot on turn one,
Oh,
which is sweet. It doesn't. I haven't had it come up. We had it come up in testing, but not in a real game. But you don't need to be a guardian to leak damage on turn one.
wow. Hey, well said. I mean, does this deck, is it actually arcane? What does this card even
No,
do? I'm so unfamiliar. When you attack with this, reveal the top X cards where X is the number of draconic. Deal damage. Oh, yeah. There's the unique slip there. That is
no
just
AB.
damage. Wow,
Yep,
very
you
cool.
can
So
definitely get in.
you've got multiple ways to kind of cheek out game-winning scenarios anyway, whether it's red hot damage, whether it's Asvali arcane pings, burn them all arcane pings. But how are you normally closing out games with this deck? Is it just overwhelming aggression? Do you grind with arcane?
I think it's mostly overwhelming aggression. I mean, the arcane is definitely nice. I think that like Asla is not a card you'd ever pass up,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see we only have 2 burn them alls. I don't. We didn't go really hard into testing 3 burn them alls. It's just this deck is very tight with the amount of space we have. Honestly, like a lot of the slots kind of build themselves in a way. Like,
Hmm.
why wouldn't we play 3 Blaze Headlong? Why wouldn't we play 3 Dust Up? So I'd say mostly aggressive to close out the game,
Yeah, I mean,
but
there's a lot of
having the
breakpoints,
chip
right?
is nice.
When
Yeah,
when you're
exactly.
throwing
There's
in
a
all
lot.
these reds, it's 4-4-4, the sticky bodies like you mentioned, and just the inevitability of even a swarm of Ashwings to close the game. So
Right, because yeah, Ravenous Rabble's always 4. Always 4. I mean, you can get unlucky, but it's most. I mean, I don't know the actual math on it, but it's almost always 4.
yeah.
So
Well, yeah. Speaking of the math, there are some cards that are not red in here. I'm seeing 2 Passing Mirage, 3 Remembrance, and 2 That All You Got. So what are they used for?
Passing Mirage, which I could see going up to a third. That's something I want to revisit coming up. That's strictly for Guardian, as I'm sure a lot of Dromai players or Illusionist players even know. When you play a Passing Mirage, it's basically telling the Guardian you have to attack this. You
Hmm.
have to send the Anathos at this. You have to send the Winter's Wail at this, because turning off Phantasm is just so strong in that matchup that we even had to consider putting in blue cards for that. I could see going up to a third. It's just awkward because it kills your action points, and with this deck
Hmm.
trying to go again a lot, it's it's something you want to keep in mind. Remembrance, same thing. Guardian matchups, that's for going really, really long. And I've had a couple people get angry at me on Talishar for playing. I had somebody going off about 3 Remembrance. Are you kidding me? You'll never finish a game like this. But really, shuffling back Mirror Guy and shuffling back Dromai is what that's there for.
Hmm.
Your ideal setup against Guardian is just sit back, set up a lot of dragons, keep setting up dragons, cause them to pop occasionally. They'll have to get rid of some of your dragons. But then if you can keep a hand that has multiple Mirror Guys, multiple Chromais in it, it's very hard for them to stop you from attacking that
Hmm.
turn, and you just can go off. And that's what Remembrance is for.
Hmm. Yeah, and actually, speaking to your ability to play the deck incredibly quickly, first of all, I did watch you play against Michael Fang in an Oldhim versus Dromai game where I wouldn't say it was truly played like to completion, but you played until you quite literally had 0 cards in deck by the time was called. So I mean, you are definitely well versed in the deck. You're playing it really quickly. I think those Talishar opponents need to just submit to salty logs and move on.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's sorry. And what you said about that matchup, that's something I actually like. I wouldn't say I'm a master at this deck by any means. I don't think anybody's a master at any deck, although we know there's some exceptions to that rule. Yeah, yeah,
oh,
you
okay,
are.
okay.
But but something I need to work on that I learned from this weekend playing against Michael was honestly just stacking up those hands and not attacking as much. I think in Guardian, you don't want to just throw a 4 attack out here or there. You're gonna get in 1 point of damage. They're gonna ice react. They're gonna earth react. It's not worth it. What you need to do is really set up and get those hands with multiple Mirror Guys and multiple Chromais. And I think
Hmm.
what to your point of not playing that game to completion, that's something important I learned from this weekend. It's something that um I strive for in the future is getting that matchup really locked down.
Hmm. Oh yeah, because it'll definitely come up. As we have this kind of month and a half off building into ProQuest season, people are, I would hope, not going to take a true vacation, but rather hone their skills and come back to ProQuest season with probably like the most reps, the most skill possible poured into their deck list, and really make for an exciting ProQuest season because this is quite the off time, the break we have. So the people coming back into this who've really spent the time, used all this to really hone in on their skills and make their play perfect are going to pull through those wins. So someone like you, I definitely want to keep an eye out for moving forward. And unfortunately, you're a little bit in my area, so I'm a little scared.
Well, I don't think we'll clash that much. Hopefully we'll just
Mhm.
both see each other at the Pro Tour. I'm really I'm you got me excited. I'm very excited for ProQuest season.
Mhm.
2 months is a long time. I know we talked about that. It's a long time to wait, but I can't wait. It's going to be so exciting.
It really is. So the next thing to talk about here, I just want to walk through a couple matchups at least. We don't have to do everything. But what 3 matchups would you like to kind of show off what the deck's really trying to do, siding in and out?
Sure. I think maybe Icelander is a good start.
Sure. So we'll look at the Icelander board here. First things first, like you mentioned, this is always the equipment you're taking, which as of now, I'm sure this feels a lot better into the Bulllander versions because you do get value out of the block. But as far as to what you're taking out of the deck here, let's start there.
Yeah, so Command and Conquer. I would say this is a general strategy for Kano as well, by the way, but I'm sure there's some tweaks here or there. I could see playing Command and Conquer against Kano just because it's a little more aggressive. But in general, that all you got, I think that speaks for itself. We don't want that.
Mm-mm.
Same with Sink Below. Even with Bolander, you have a lot of 3 blocks in your deck. If you really need the block, you're going to be able to. Remembrance is strictly for Guardian. We're just not even going to talk about that in any other matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Red Hot, we don't want to play a lot of 2 drops, and this is a consideration for Command and Conquer as well. Our deck is all reds. We can't pay for Frostbites. I'm not going to be playing 2 drops. If I have to play for a Frostbite, it's going to be with Flamescale Furnace, and I'm not going to be able to play a 2-drop probably. So setting up those long chain links I need for Red Hot to even be good, not worth it. And they can just play cards out of Arsenal. So Command and Conquer, not worth it. Doombreaker is just a consideration to the fact that they're playing the Bowender list, and it's probably the weakest attack action I have. So
Right, because like you said, you're not ever taking Phantasmal Footsteps, so leading here can potentially just end your turn. Where I assume in this matchup, you're always trying to be the aggressor, but how are you actually pulling off the win into Icelander? Is it just a fast game? Are you setting up a board state?
it's a fast game, and you can be a little tricky with your Flamescale Furnace activations.
Mm-hmm.
Although they don't really play Blue Arctic Incarceration anymore, one of the tricks you can do is let the Icelander cast Arctic Incarceration, get the Icelander trigger to get your first Frostbite, pitch 2 resources to Flamescale Furnace, then you destroy the Frostbite and end up with 2 resources to pay through your next Frostbite. So there's some different tricks you can do with just getting around Frostbites. So that's one of the ways. Another way is Irina's Prayer right there. That's a card that every person has had to read that I've played it against.
Sure, reveal the top card of your deck. Prevent the next X arcane damage that would be dealt to you this turn, where X is 6 minus the pitch value. So in this matchup, you do have the double blue, right? So you could get unlucky. It's not likely, but this is most of the time a 1 for 5 prevention, right?
Correct. Yep. And yeah, you can hit the Passing Mirage. The Passing Mirage is only in here, by the way, because it pitches for 3 and pays for AB. But yeah, the Prayer is almost always a 1 for 5, and it's great. It also is very important to note that you can usually end up playing it into a red Ice Vein, and even if they wand you in response, you can hopefully have enough AB to go over that, even given, because you can usually pitch to Flamescale and then have your other card, hopefully. Obviously, that's not always going to be the perfect scenario, but especially it's mostly there for the Ice Veins and just general arcane damage, because this one does not get soaked up of note by 1 card. It doesn't break it's not sand cover. It doesn't get popped. It prevents all of the arcane damage, the next X damage. So
oh yeah, that is good to know. I totally missed that. Cool.
Yeah,
that's a very cool tech.
Yeah.
So anything else, like last tip or trick for this matchup before we look at the next one?
Yeah, Oasis Respite. I would love to be able to play Sand Cover, but again, Aether Ice Vein is just such a broken card. You just have to play Oasis Respite against it. And it can cover up the red Oasis or the red Ice Vein as well, because you can just pitch to it and then pitch to 1 EB on your dragons. Themi, never attack. Never attack with Themi.
Right.
It's similar to the Mirage and the Guardian matchup. You play it, you just let it sit. They can't cast any spells. It's harder against Bolander because they can actually attack it now, but it's the best card in the matchup by far.
Yeah, they're running like the Scar for Scars, but that's pretty much the only thing that lines up really well in terms of clean damage breaks on this. So you're probably pretty happy when they do soak like an Aether Ice Vein or a tall attack into it. But yeah, very scary card. They got to respect it for sure. All right, so what's the next matchup you want to look at here? All right, Dromai mirror match, because most of the time it's not a true mirror, right? You wouldn't expect that your opponent is on this aggressive style. So what do you think is favored when you sit down across a Dromai?
I think that this matchup, we win every time that I've played it so far. The only exception, and I had this happen at Nationals, but my opponent didn't choose correctly, is if they pop your Flamescale Furnace on the first 2 turns with Tumultai, then you're sweating. But in general, I just think we're so low to the ground, we can really pick off their dragons and still have a lot of go again potential. biggest
Mm-hmm.
pointers in this matchup is life total doesn't really matter that much.
Mm-hmm.
You want to really concentrate on your Ash production, especially because you don't have Necria. You don't have those cards that
Right.
reproduce Ash all the time. But you make up for it in having a lot of go again attack actions. Red Hot is great in this matchup.
Yeah, I
You can
imagine because
easily pick
Dromai
off a
almost never runs
dragon.
poppers, right? Just overall. Mm.
Right, they don't run poppers. You can run a bunch of Ash Wings into their other dragons, and then Red Hot kill another dragon while attacking them, or kill two
Oh wow.
dragons with it. Yeah. So you can just you can send like an Ash Ring at their Yenderai, then attack them with Red Hot, kill their Yenderai. That type of thing is really it
Wow.
lines up well against Mirror Guy. It's a great card for just popping dragons. It's kind of another copy of Azalai, but for bigger dragons.
Interesting. This might be the mirror tech because I mean, otherwise the only thing that lines up super well is I assume it's in the list. Yeah. So like CNCs are going to be something you're both very wary of. You both probably only have about 3 poppers in the matchup, but then you're ahead of the curve in the board state clearing and damage because of the singular card Red Hot. That's really cool. Are you normally playing this matchup to kind of be the last one to play their rakes, or are you going to just play your rakes out just for
Yeah,
the aggression?
that's a very important distinction that you made is that you never cast Rake or Azwai first, ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unless I mean, there's never a never ever, but you really shouldn't. You should if because if they go Rake and then you go Rake, you clear the board. If you go Rake for value, they play an Azwai, kill every token that you just made, or they play their own Rake and kill every token. So it's very important to not. I'll just pitch them early. I won't even worry about it. I'll pitch them early, and then
Mm-hmm.
I know I'll get them back later because the game goes kind of long. But yeah, never play Rake or Azwai first.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. Any last tip on the matchup before we look at the next one?
If you have a Snatch and a Dust Up in hand,
Dust up.
play Dust Up first
Snatch.
in most occasions because you don't want to get stuck with an extra card. I guess that's more relevant in other matchups where they could actually stop you from continuing your combat chain. But
Mm-hmm.
just as a general strategy rule, if you have those two cards in hand, you want to use Dust Up first because if you get stopped, you don't want to get stuck with an extra card in hand.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I saw that on stream as well. You had some cheeky plays where you throw out Snatch. I was like, oh, no blocks. And then it was Sigil out of Arsenal. And then you punish the draw there because
Yeah,
pretty much every draw is live. Like you don't mind almost anything in Arsenal with
right,
how red it
correct.
is,
Yeah.
right? All right, cool.
Yep.
Last matchup we're gonna look at. What'd you like? All right, let's look at Oldhim then. Very prevalent, and I definitely saw you play this matchup. What's your strat here?
So we have a lot of cards in,
Yep.
and we're just trying to go long. As I mentioned earlier, remembrance is the key. You need to cycle back those mirror guys and those chromais, and you want to
Mm-hmm.
set multiple up in a turn. You really don't want to just run a mirror guy out and have it be attacked down because it's not going to buy you enough value. One attack is not worth the value for it.
Yep.
You really need to be setting up the long game and trying to shuffle them back. I know you can shuffle back the passing mirages too.
Mm-hmm.
And against decks with poppers, it's if you don't have a mirror guy out, always lead with attacking with Chromai. That's what it's there for. It's there to give you your action point back if they pop it, so they make you pop multiple cards.
Mm-hmm.
And something we talked about plan wise for this matchup was if they're trying to be an aggressive Oldhim, you are able to be aggressive because we have so many zero attacks. If they're trying to be defensive, then just play your dragons, sit back, build up your board, chip in here or there, but really just keep setting up because Oldhim doesn't have that many ways to get go again. They
Mm-hmm.
have belting and what's the card that can attack for 7 has go again?
Sometimes Rouse. Not every Oldhim is on Rouse. It's more of a Bravo card, but it's definitely like E-Strike and Zealous are their core go agains.
Right. So if they can't go again, just keeping on setting up dragons is really the best plan.
So you're going up to 65, but you're still taking out some cards. So you're valuing like definitely threat density rather than just filling your deck out to avoid like general fatigue. But you're specifically not running now the CNCs, will make sense because of Crown, and then also not Red Hots. Is this just because of all the poppers that you're going to be running into?
Yeah, you're never gonna get a 4 dragon chain really going. And
Yeah.
also if they ice react to you, you just won't be able to play it.
Oh yeah, true. Oh darn
So
ice react. Yeah. Okay, well that was
Yeah.
quick. Let's jump into one more. You mentioned Dorinthea actually being also considered like pretty hard, and Dorinthea is also on the rise again. She got some really interesting tools from the latest set Dynasty here that probably are going to push her back into prevalence. So against Dorinthea, let's see. You are opting to cut these 15.
Yep. Yeah. Dory's a deck after my own heart. It's actually the deck I have foiled out currently. I really loved
Nice.
playing Dory when I started, but I don't know. This deck is just so sweet. I couldn't play Dory over this deck. But this is generally considered a hard matchup because it's so easy for them to get counters by killing your dragons. They can just build up a huge Dawnblade by attacking 2 dragons a turn. It gives them go again right away. And so it's something we're trying to figure out all the time. Mark was able to give me some good pointers before the tournament and actually played 2 Dories and beat both of them throughout the weekend. And the main plan is to block with dragons a lot, attack with your attack actions when you can. And I think that's something that differentiates us from the usual Dromai deck
Mhm.
is that we have a lot of attack actions. And then when you get close to lethal, that's when it's okay to start playing dragons.
Yeah, that's actually a really good call out. Even against a general like Dorinthea game plan, most of this stuff tends to block 3. So you can, even without a weapon, fall on the game plan of like block 3, return 4, block 3, return 4. And as long as that gets you the chip, then you pivot towards dragons. That's really smart. Well thought out. Well thought out for
Yeah,
sure.
we're trying. Yeah, he definitely played it more than me, and we were just wondering how he could do it because I played Dory a couple times when Dromai was just starting to pick up and just absolutely destroyed it a bunch, and we started getting worried about how the matchup would be. But I think that's the strategy right now. Hopefully, it continues.
Mhm.
Just following the general Dory baselines of if they attack turn 1, block 9 or something, because it's very hard
Mhm.
for them to go over. And the sigils are cut because they
Yeah.
don't block.
Right, right. Because it's still a game of attrition. You aren't playing
Right.
for like a long pitch stack. Makes sense.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and they don't run a lot of poppers as well, so it makes sense when you do pivot.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, a red hot can be a blowout. I just love. I wish every game could end with a red hot. I hope
Yeah,
in my head that's how this deck works. I don't know if
it's
that's
a
reality.
great car. It's so much fun to play, and really Rake enables it a lot. That's definitely
Mhm.
um the main way to set it up. But it's so much fun to play. I definitely had to calm myself down a little bit early on. I was like, okay, I'm gonna arsenal this and wait. I'm gonna take a ton of damage next turn so I could red hot them. But when it's good, it's very good.
Mhm. Well, perfect. We're actually going to jump into a bit of a gameplay section so we can get Jeremy's insights on how to pilot this beast of an aggressive Dromai, and hopefully we get off a red hot. All right, Jeremy, we found ourselves in a bit of an oddball matchup. We're against Kano here. You ready to play this one? What do you think?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, okay, well, first things first then, decisions must be made on
Yeah,
sideboarding here.
that's all right. We can take out the sync blows.
Yep. Makes sense. Taking out that all you got as well, I assume.
Yep, and
Sinks,
remembrances.
remembrances.
Can take out the red hots, unfortunately.
Oh no, I wanted a red hot game. That's okay.
Although, well, they're not playing Bowlander. We could try it.
Up
I'm
to
open
you.
to it. Yeah,
All
I'll give
right,
it a
all
shot.
right. Let's go for it. We're at 67 though still. What
All
else
right,
we got?
commit. We can cut the
Yeah, cut the
CNCs.
CNCs.
We can cut the burn them alls. They're too slow.
Okay.
Uvia is too slow.
All right. 61.
And then
We can maybe we go to 2 red hot. Maybe we need to be modest about it.
yeah,
All
let's
right,
cut a red hot.
let's go to 2 red hot. All right, and let's see what happens here. All right, Jeremy, we're in the game here, and the Kano did win the roll and choose to go first here. So they're gonna go ahead and kick off with their, Kano opt effects. But it's already a
Let's
bit of
hit
an
that
oddball one. Look at this.
that gem on the silken form, so we have that ready. If we need it.
Right. Because actually, with the way you're playing this deck, you'll use Silken Form almost as soon as it's even as soon as you can. Really, it's an Ash generation, right?
Right. This is interesting. Already going off with nodes.
No. I think that's just the priority window. It's
Okay.
he hasn't unclicked the gem on his end there, but they are coming in with a Lesson the Lava before we can AB it. So I
I think
think
it's worth. Yeah.
yeah, it is going to be worth it, right? So we can sink some of that into Quell at least. And maybe we get a couple procs out of it. So if we're keeping any of these cards for our aggressive turn, what would you rather hold?
I think against Kano, we definitely want to pitch the Doombreaker last.
Dunebreaker last. Okay, so something
Yeah,
like
so
Sweeping
either
Blow
of those.
first.
Yeah, probably Sleeping Blow.
Okay. Yeah, because this is our more aggressively setted card, and they probably don't have Phantasm. Or Phantasm Poppers, rather. And of course, we'll hold information on Sigil as well, right? Definitely play it, but no need to do it early. Now, this is scary, though. Aether Spindle, Sonic Boom. There's a lot of cards already coming through. The chat's a bit cropped here, but it is what it is. They revealed an Aether Spindle from some effect here. The Sonic Boom's incoming.
Well, not much we can do other than Quell.
Yep, which we'll continue to do, right?
Right.
Lose the life, at least build up some Ash, and always transform as well, right? We might as well get the Ashwing at the end of the turn.
Yeah, if you're left with one, I wouldn't, but in this case, we're gonna.
Yeah, here we go. Well, that took 3 reds out of our hand, but it's not like we could really do anything else, right?
Right.
Unless they push with a Waning Moon, then we're 1 damage off what we could otherwise have prevented. But they're just going through the opt effects now. So this is a. Okay, it looks like they will actually shoot for this one last Kano effect here. Let's see what it is. It's a Tome.
Wow, that was a good one.
Yeah, so they're still going to get their arsenal here. And potentially even one more Kano hit. Woo!
Wow.
This is looking like a pretty good turn 0 out of our Kano opponent. And it's a Blazing.
Wow.
And they're pitching for Waning Moon. Okay, so in theory, pitching the Sigil on the Quell, it does prevent 2 damage-ish, because it's going to soak the Waning and then also cover 1 more that the Aether would have otherwise dealt, but it's still worth more to play out, so we just eat this, right? Take 2 into the last Blazing here.
We'll see.
Yeah, dealing 9 Arcane. Maybe we still take the game away from him, though.
All right, so now we want to make our Ashwing.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, so this is where missing like a Null Rune headpiece starts to come up big, right?
Well, we don't have any blues to pitch.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair as well.
Yeah, I've been asked a couple times about why there's no Null Rune, but we just don't have anything to pitch.
Right, yeah. I guess in that kind of scenario, we did what we could with that hand anyway. It blocked, in theory, everything it could on the Quell.
We got a prayer.
Okay, yeah, you're right there. We do have a prayer, and we also have a Scar for Scar that's live, so...
I think we lead off with a Scar.
Lead with Scar. Right, let's see it. So, Arenia's Prayer and Arsenal probably seems like the right way to end the turn, right?
For sure.
So then that makes our Enlightened Strike potentially kind of awkward.
I think we're probably going to go Scar for Scar, Ashwing, 7.
Okay. Some people choose to go pretty aggressive early with E-Strikes when the decks are built like this, right? You could just E-Strike, draw a card, snaps, and go out the gate running. But I like the reserve play. Makes sense. So yeah. Ashwing is the next swing
either
here.
Way. We're just not guaranteed to draw something we can play.
That's true.
And we don't really want to use the Irina's Prayer to pitch whatever we draw.
Right. So pretty safe then. We'll just do 7.
Yeah.
Buff power. All right. I mean, our turn was almost as aggressive as you could get as well.
Right.
The only difference would have been like, oh, yep, big there. The only difference would have been, if this was like another 0 for 4 go again, like Ravenous or something into the dust up, we missed like 1 damage in theory, but not so bad because we also got a free damage with Ashwing. Yeah. Okay, so equalized a little bit. I think this feels okay.
And we got a Blazing Aether out of their deck, right? And a Lesson Lava.
Yeah, although they don't normally have to play 3 of those, They play like the one that kills you. Mind Warp.
Oh.
Ooh, Lord. This one's going to be funky, 2? Right? Yeah, so it deals 2. Surge, though. If it deals more than 2, So I guess it depends if they're buffing it, because if it deals just base
Yeah.
2, there's no effect, right?
Yeah, that's fine if they
Interesting.
just deal base 2. And if they pump it, we have an opportunity window, correct?
Yeah, we would. There wouldn't be anything on resolution. It'd be now. So I guess let's see what they do.
Just 2?
Yeah, well, I guess so. We can wait for it, or no, there'd be no reason to actually pull this out right now, right? This
Yeah,
can block more
no.
later. Yeah. All right, let me just make sure. It is if it deals more than 2. Okay, yes, more than
Yeah.
2. So we can either pay 1 in because we don't need a card in hand, or just let it happen. How are you feeling? Because we
Well,
do have this blue here.
yeah, we do have that blue there. I almost want to keep Oasis or Spite next turn, even though our hand's not super aggressive. I'm tempted to just pitch the Passing Mirage to play Mirror Guy next turn.
But then what are we paying? What are we using the rest of our resources for, right? Because this is 0, this is 1.
We're not, and which is the consideration, but it's whether we want to be more aggressive here or not.
I see.
I think we can take this too.
Take it? All right.
Yeah.
End of turn. Cool. All right. I mean, that's not so bad for us. Normally on a 1-card hand like that, they could throw around 3. So we did come out ahead. All right. So how do you want to lead the turn here?
I think we kick it off with the Mirror Guy by Passing Mirage, or by pitching Passing Mirage.
Sure. Getting a little worried for our Ash generation potential here, because we will play out, lose 2 Ash.
Right.
And then we won't even be able to actually Furnace pitch the red because we'll have the 2 float. But we'll see what happens.
I think we'll be okay.
All right, so then
yeah, fire off the Aswai.
Aswai, yeah, because that's the one we'd rather protect with the
yeah,
the Mirage.
not that I don't know if they play Nourishing Emptiness or something, but
maybe the one, right? Maybe the one. So the one consideration on going to 0 Ash that I have though is how important Themai is potentially. Because
right.
I get the premise that for the most part, like you can play without Ash because a lot of your damage comes from attacks rather than the dragons themselves. But just knowing that Themai might come up is why I'm worried about going to 0.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair consideration. If this hand was a little more aggressive, I feel like it wouldn't be. I wouldn't question it as much, but because we don't have a lot going on, I think we just need to push damage.
Okay. Bit of a slow trickle, but maybe holding the Oasis isn't so bad for us because they're trying to pop off here. Like they're definitely holding something. I'd wish they do it on this turn, right? Because we've got the 2 floating right now.
I agree. Yeah, it's a very slow turn for us, unfortunately.
Oh,
that's good. Take another
block
card.
With a red Aether. Don't hate that.
All for it.
All right, then. We go to the pass. What did I say?
Well, we're gonna pitch something this turn, so
that's. Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Actually.
All right. So I think we'd want to probably. I think we could just fire off the.
I mean, Oasis won't gain us the life here, but it might not for most of the rest of the match. So Oasis blocking 4 compared to Arena's blocking 5 is the question.
Yeah. Do we think they're gonna moon us here?
Probably, right? There's 2 float. So
I think then I think it's fine to fire off the prayer off of E-Strike then.
Off of E-Strike? Because then we're pitching both of these into Themai next turn? Or
yeah, most likely.
Most likely? Okay. We'll go Arena's. Watch us reveal the passing, though.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, I would hope not. In a way, we'll be open to some huge push on their turn on the stack of Themai being played. But I think if we can stick this, we are in a very good spot.
I agree. What do we hit?
Invoke Themai was the reveal.
Okay.
So pretty okay there. And then they go with the Waning Moon. They might not understand this interaction either, because it is an awkward one. But they didn't pump this.
Soak up all the damage.
So it'll be 2, 3, and that's the full 5. So that's actually huge.
Yeah.
That's actually huge. Yeah, because it should deal 0. Exactly 0. Yeah, wow. Great interaction. I think they might have missed that as well.
All right, so now we might want to... do we want to make any? Do you want to do anything? No. I just like to always think about if we want to do anything with the flame scale furnace when I play a red card, but we're good. We want to wait.
Yeah, we do, right? Because we lead with Themi.
Yeah, we just got to go for it. I think
It is risky, because if
it is scary. We could. No, we can't attack first.
no, we can't attack first. But the one other option, right, is we play Dromai out instead. Go for that kind of board because if they try to push aggressive, we can Oasis at least.
I think I might be in for that. I think it's safer to do that.
Okay. I don't mind that. The only issue becomes, what do we do with the turn if they don't push? It just becomes Dromai, and then I guess we cycle Themi since we know we're drawing one next hand anyway for another Ash Arsenal Oasis.
Yeah, I think that's
not
a
awful,
smart
right?
move.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So let's start here.
And then we want to attack with Asvalai first.
Yep. Because there's no benefit ever, right, with Miragai on Dromai. It's just not.
Correct.
Doesn't do
Yeah.
anything.
My friend called me out for that this weekend, so thank you for that, Joe.
Oh, did you do that on stream?
No, not on stream, but I was doing that in one of my matches, and he's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he explained it to me a little bit more.
Yeah, because the on destruction effect is sure you lose the body, but it is an upside for the deck. All right, they're thinking. Maybe this is good. It's probably a good thing that we didn't go for the Themi because it seems like, yep, here we go. Look at that. They're trying for something here. Oh, this is exciting. Kano's an exciting matchup, and a lot of people have been playing it.
Oh.
To be fair,
I mean that's good for this deck most of the time.
Yeah. I mean those turn zeros where you take like what 15. Yeah, those can't be fun, but any other time, yeah. Okay, so the Emeritus comes in for 4. The way they are pitching for it, it doesn't look likely that a moon is necessarily coming, but regardless, the Oasis lets us target. Right?
Yeah.
So we should always do that? Or no?
Probably right to do that unless we want to keep into consideration any of the cards that stack more, but I think it's probably right just to cover it up, probably.
Okay, so we'll let the priority window pass on Metacarpus, and then we can go for it here. And there's no difference, right? Pitching the red versus paying to flame scale. It's the exact same.
Yeah, there is no difference, yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead target the Emeritus here. Covers the full 4. It's also huge knowledge that we have Themi coming in the next hand. Like that's actually quite cool. Like Arrhenius gave us a bit of an avenue to pursue because otherwise we might have overvalued Themi, right? It's pretty cool.
Right.
Sweet. So we block the full 4.
Yeah.
Okay, they go for
this
Tunic.
turn. This next turn and the rest of this turn is going to be scary, but
and they pitch red for waning. This is okay, right? Because they're only keeping the one card left in hand there.
That's the card we're most scared of. Well, one of them.
Yep, and we see it on the bottom now. What is worrisome overall, though, becomes the fact that we don't have an Arrhenius or an Oasis in Arsenal anymore. That's definitely something big, because now, even into next turn, if we try to play the Themi, we're open once again. No backup.
I agree, yeah, especially because they got us to 20 so fast. I think that turn 0 definitely was very good for them.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. So unfortunately, with outrunning Necria, you lose some of the fun interactions, like Asvalai pinging Necria, which is like one of my favorite things to do.
That is a sweet one.
There should always be Dromai next, right?
Yeah. Just in case they pop us.
Yep.
And some matchups you'll hold back Miragai, but this is not one of those.
Yeah, it's just 2 damage, but it's relevant because it pushes us to potentially presenting lethal next turn, right?
Right. If we can get an E-strike and not die, that'd be perfect.
Hey, we ended the turn with 2 AP. It's a lot.
Nice.
Okay. And we pass it over. They're really valuing this card, which really scares me.
Oh,
it is very scary, but look at this. This might be the God draw.
Prayer.
Yeah, this is kind of the God draw, isn't it? That's insane.
Yeah, this is a pretty good one.
Whew. Okay. Well,
did they just pass it over?
They pass it because I think what they're doing, especially with them pitching the Aether Wildfire, it almost tells me that they had the Aether, and that's what they're trying to wait for. Is just like the lethal stack kill, because we only have the 1 AB. So in their mind, they really might just play super aggro for it. Oops. Of course, now we have the counter.
Here we have the perfect setup because we can just passing Mirage into Themi, keeping up 1 for Irina's.
Right. So we always lead there because this forces their response.
Right.
Interesting that there's so many attacks in the deck, but our game plan has just pivoted to dragon, just by the nature of the draw. But like you mentioned in the deck, the dragons are like sticky attacks. You don't hate either sequence.
Right.
Because if in a normal matchup they turned on the dragons, that's life you bought into the aggressive half of your deck that you'll then draw. Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like Briar attacking with Scar First Scars and Blaze Headlongs, bunch of 0 for 4s, and then other times you're a Dromai deck.
Yeah, you're a Dromai deck, that has Red Hot in it, so you're kind of the coolest Dromai deck, right?
Right.
All right, so this is. I mean, hey, pressure's off on us. It's the Kano's
they gotta
time
go.
to go for it, and we know, by the way, that Arinias can't reveal a blue now because we have both passings at the bottom. That is amazing. On top of that, we even have one red we can pitch into the AB here. So I think all avenues are open for us to just win this game.
I agree.
But let's watch. It's like a little
Kano
cinematic.
could surprise us.
Yeah, what does Kano do? All right. First of all, that's an easy. I mean, not easy. That's a low pressure banish just to kick things off here. Pretty easy read that this isn't the greatest kill turn. Just because this blue, yes, it deals 1, but it also costs 1. Most of the time, if they're digging for a blue like this, they want them to be 0 cost. So same deal that we're just waiting. We're waiting. We don't want to show the Arinias, right?
Right. They're going for it.
I mean, they have to. This board becomes way too big a deal to deal with.
I agree.
Oh, we got it. Yeah, this is the card they were holding. So they had that in Arsenal, right? So there was something else in hand they really wanted to combo this with, which is likely another Blazing Aether, right? Because that's the kill turn they go for. So when they hold Arsenal card in hand, they're committed to lethal from normally like 34. Obviously, we have to play around that because of Arinias. So let's make it happen here. See if they pay into Metacarpus. See how much they cry. Sorry, Kano.
Yeah, because even if they pop some of the damage off of the wand, it should still be.
Okay, so they did pay for the Metacarpus here. So now we'll respond with Arinias, right?
Yep.
Yeah, now's the right time because it just very much eats this multiplicative damage off of Kano. And the poor guy will likely not win the game. Because they're sacking all these resources on the Themi stack, but then Themi resolves, and then how do they ever go for this again? Doesn't happen.
Right. No.
Okay. So they pop the Ragamuffins because I do think they were holding the combo here. So they might try to inversely... Okay, yeah, so it revealed Snatch just, by the way. So yeah, it'll soak the full 5, which this has been pumped to 5 here. So we should be taking 0. Just making sure. Making sure. What's crazy, though, is if we didn't draw this, we were dead. As good as this matchup actually probably should be for Dromai, the Kano had the God tier 0, or turn 0. But then this was nuts, like our draw on this. Because it's only, is it 2 Arinias or 3?
It's 2. It's only fair that we drew it when they drew it. Most of the time, this matchup is just so great for us.
Wow, what luck on this. All right, well, as we just watched the Kano play with himself for a bit, because unfortunately it's all they can do. What else do you want to tell the people about the deck? Because unfortunately I don't have time to record a game 2, so this is going to be pretty much all we can show off here.
Well, I would just say if you want to try it, go give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. I have, as I said earlier, I've not had more fun playing a deck than I have with this deck. I brought it to Nationals and I brought it to the Battle Hardened 2 months later because it was just so much fun and I didn't want to put it down. So, and other than Flamescale Furnace and the Crown, which given they're expensive, and the Command and Conquers, the rest of the deck is nothing.
Yeah, true. And at CNC at this point, it got reprinted as a Marvel. Doesn't mean it actually goes down in price, but I have seen CNCs drop pretty significantly just because you can get them in white border, you can get them in French. It's not the biggest money sink that it used to be for anyone who's picking up the game, even before like the foreign language prints came out. So
definitely.
And the good news is, like, if you spend money on Flamescale and Crown, these are cards that are pretty relevant even for other decks. The Emperor loves this, Fi loves this. Pretty much any deck could love Crown. Whether they're running it or not, it's always a consideration. And we're just
I
wrapping
agree.
up the game in the background.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, so, but yeah, definitely just give it a shot. Hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I can provide my details at some point. I would not try to build this budget without Furnace. It won't work. I'm sorry, but it just won't.
Yeah. So that's your priority
Other than-
buy, would be Flame Scale?
Yeah, that's the priority. You need it for this deck. Making Ash is so important, being able to play those red hots. You won't be able to play those red hots without it, so.
All right, I think the Kano, we actually had perfect lethal as well, because blocking with Tunic was still exactly game. So GG's opponent, I know, is pretty rough that we had the Arinias.
Yep.
But it's all good. We got to see Kano pop off for a bit, but then we also got our return and showed off a bit of how much the deck can attack these different matchups on different axes. Like Themai's a big threat that Wizard has to respect, but then you start to pepper in the extra additions of like Arinias and Oasis to really shore up the matchup. You don't get greedy about it. It's not just Themai that'll do it, right? So I really like the deck. I really like how it's built, and hopefully you enjoyed the deck tech, and we'll have the link in the description below so you can click through matchups, try it out yourself, and win more games with more Red Hots. Right before we go here, Jeremy, floor is yours. Shout out who you want, tell the people where to find you, and plug yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I'll give you my @ I don't remember it off the top of my head, so I'll give you that later. But huge shout out again to Mark Morrison. He really pioneered this deck and came to me, and I love it, so couldn't be better. Also, Connor, Anthony, Joe, everybody in the local testing scene with me, Brian, really appreciate all you guys, and it's great playing and traveling with you. So too many names to mention right now, but the whole Albany scene, it's been awesome and continue to be.
Awesome. And really, Jeremy, I hope to see you. I hope to see more of your Albany crew out in the upcoming ProQuest season. It'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully you take one down with this deck. So with that, folks, hey, I'll catch you in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video.